right, let me get all my friends and everyone who I'm listening to at the moment and people who have been like, you know, obsessed with their music. Let me just bell them up and just be like, come be in the video, because we kind of support each other. And
my name is Jess Iszatt and I'm your social media host for the AIM Independent Music Awards 2021, and the AIM Awards are back this year as a global live stream on August the 25th, which means that you can get involved by watching via the AIM YouTube channel, the AIM Awards Facebook event page, or via On Air. Plus, the app is back, so you can download the free AIM Awards app and get involved with exclusive awards content and offers. Just simply search AIM Official in your app store. So my next guest has been nominated for 2 AIM Awards this year: Best Independent Track in association with Facebook, and also the One to Watch Award in association with BBC Music. Introducing Lava LaRue. Welcome along. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
So like the last year has obviously been like nothing that we have ever experienced before. We had lockdown, obviously isolation, people getting ill, people losing people, loved ones, no gigs, no touring, navigating the online world, which actually we're now continuing to do. Not to mention, of course, the politics as well. With you, how would you say that you have coped in hindsight with this mad change, global change?
Yeah, that with that like whole list, you just made me look back on all of that, like, ugh. But no, I've been staying relatively positive, and I feel like obviously, yeah, a lot of stuff has happened that has been really negative, but I think sometimes being taken out of your comfort zone can create a positive. And I feel like as a result of it feeling like the world's coming to a halt, we've been able to have really good like conversations surrounding like progression and stuff like that. And for me personally, I've had a lot of like conversations with myself, and you know, myself as not just an artist but as a human. So it's been good. It feels like a lot of growth, and it's crazy because like when the pandemic first started, I've had 2 birthdays since then. So I literally like I came into the pandemic as a fresh 21-year-old, and I've kind of just had this whole like growth where suddenly I've closed my eyes and opened it and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like fully an adult now. What's going on? So yeah, it's all been about like navigating that.
Wow, yeah, talk about personal growth.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, obviously lots has happened and I'm glad that you've got like a positive spin on it. Did you find engaging with fans was tricky, or for you was it something that you were able to navigate quite easily?
Yeah, I feel like I became even more connected with my fans over yeah, the pandemic, because obviously my main source was always like it was always about the live shows for me, and it was always like, let's go to a lava show, like mosh pits, like let's have a lot of fun. So because I hadn't been able to do that, I felt a lot more sort of a need to connect, like whether it was like online or like sending merch. Or last year I made a little zine that I sent out to some of the listeners. So yeah, it made me want to get even more creative and personal because I wasn't able to be there in the flesh with them.
I think when we lost that sort of like tangible connection of shows, artists like yourself were able to get in and just make something uber creative. Like it wasn't going to stop people's creativity. It almost felt like you had to reach out in a different way.
Yeah.
So I also want to know what music you've been listening to lately, because obviously, like we've all mentioned, we're kind of sat in our rooms and we're discovering music online, but that means the whole world has opened up. What have you been listening to?
I've been listening to Hiatus Coyote's new album a lot. I think they're amazing, especially Red Room. I think that's so cool. Like Napalm's vocals is just like insane. They're I generally think they're one of the best bands of our like generation right now. And yeah, a lot of like the usuals, a lot of like Andre 3000 and also Beck as well. And yeah, there's loads of like bands that I've been discovering recently that have been really great. So yeah.
Or ones that we're probably really itching to go and see, like now that the shows are coming back. The announcement's
Yeah.
been made Oh, hopefully very soon. Although if they are on like the other side of the world, it's just a bit like, oh, okay, actually, yeah, we'll enjoy from
Yeah.
our home still.
Yeah.
So obviously we've mentioned you've been nominated for 2 AIM Awards, Best Independent Track in association with Facebook, and of course the One to Watch Award with Introducing, which makes me very excited and happy. But what is your take on music awards? How do you feel about it? Like, what was it like hearing that you were nominated for these?
It was like, for this specific awards, I was really like over the moon to like find out I was nominated for, like, yeah, not even just 1 but 2. That was wicked. And I think for awards like this, like that highlights independent musicians, it's really important because, naturally as an independent artist you have a much smaller team, and a lot of the job or roles you end up doubling up on. So for me personally, I handle a lot of like the creative side. So, I do like the cover art and like work really hands on with like the music videos, and in ways where literally, I'm the musician, but I'm also like my graphic designer, my creative director, and all of that kind of stuff. So it like, to get recognized for that hard work is like really nice, because you do obviously have to put a lot of work in, and maybe don't have as much as a machine behind you. So when things do numbers or get like recognized, it does feel a lot more special, I suppose, because you're like, yeah, I really did that kind of like independently. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that feeds quite nicely, especially into your track Magpie, which is what you've got the nomination for Best Independent Track for. Um, what can you tell people who haven't had a close listen to this track yet?
Um, Magpie is like a personification of my relationship with London, and London constantly being changing. It's a place that I have so much love for, and all the subcultures here and all the things that would have gone on to inspire like music culture across the world. I specifically, like, in the actual video, look into sort of like sound system cultures and the way like Caribbean culture has affected the UK, but more in like a black punk avenue. And these are all sounds that eventually would like spread to the rest of the world. So yeah, it's kind of like, I love you, but you're also changing, and you're like, getting expensive, and artists feel like they have to leave, and it's kind of like this back and forth like relationship. And then in the end, I kind of end on a triumphant note, like, actually no, I'm not going anywhere, we're going to work through this together. So yeah.
I love the music video. I mean, you've kind of encapsulated it so well, just being on the London Tube. It's just, it's iconic, it's so recognizable. But not only that, obviously the protest boards, if you like pause and have a little look and you're covering sort of the bases, things like you've just mentioned are important to you. But also spotted Poppy Judah in there, Nasty Nige as well, your friends.
Mhm.
And I know that you particularly work with your peers so well. Talk to me about your relationship with these other people and why you felt like showcasing them even in your music video is important to you.
Yeah, I mean, being in London, I've always been in touch with like a wicked sort of like scene of musicians, like underground, or musicians who are going more into like the pop sphere, but it really is just sort of like very London centric and creative. And it's funny like how things happen, because it's one thing just being part of that scene, but also being an independent artist, you get these really organic moments. So again, I wasn't like, okay, which like ultra cool influencer models can I like cast for this video? But I'm like, all right, let me get all my friends and everyone who I'm listening to at the moment, and people who have been like, obsessed with their music, let me just bell them up and just be like, come be in the video, because we kind of support each other. And yeah, that definitely happened with Magpie. Like, one of the first people you see in the video is an artist called Wooloo, whose music has been actually supported really well by BBC. And through him, I met an artist called Phoebes, who works really closely with him, and Congo Natty, who ended up being on the remix of Magpie. So we dropped a Magpie remix, and then it was like a jungle remix of like a jungle legend and another like rapper I was working with. And it was all through like, their friend was in my video, and then I hit up their friends, and it just happens like very organically, which is like really wicked.
I love that so much. And I think, well, we've chatted about this a number of times between us, just how being an independent artist for you is sort of getting creative with your peers, the people that you meet, just kind of being resourceful in a way that is organic, because you literally get on with these people and you admire what they do.
Exactly.
Obviously, then, or I guess at the same time, you've had the birth of the 9/8 Collective, and that is your baby. Can you tell people who might not know about the 9/8 Collective how you founded it and how it came together?
Yeah, so 9/8 is a DIY arts and music collective, and it's comprised of loads of amazing artists who, yeah, you'll probably hear on maybe even your show, including like Big Pig, Nyana, Mac Weather, Bone Slim, Nige, Lorenzo. And you know, we collaborate with like loads of artists, and we basically all have our individual projects, but we're all really good friends, and we come together and we do like some group ideas or group projects where it's really just about like, you know, expressing how we're feeling in that moment, and it's really nice. And yeah, we all have our individual narratives, but when we come together we kind of make this sort of super narrative that feels like a more rounded version of what, you know, being where we're at right now feels like.
Do you have any recommendations or perhaps advice for artists who think, you know what, that's actually an amazing idea? What's the best advice for getting involved in a sort of collective or kind of creating one, perhaps?
Yeah, I would say, huh, what would I say is advice? Because it did kind of like, I kind of almost fell into it because it was like my friendship group, but it really starts when you really know what you want, you start going on your own path, you begin to attract people on the same frequency. And that's really, as corny as it is, to find the right people around you who you really trust creatively. You kind of got to like know inside what are your creative values and what do you want. And you know, it's kind of like finding any kind of relationship, whether it's a creative one or a friendship one or even a romantic one. You can only really get to something that really like clicks when you're like, yeah, this is my frequency and this is what I'm on. And if you know you want to do it with me, wicked. And if not, that's okay. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that's like a really good step. But also, yeah, being comfortable with like creating a network of creating and swapping resources, you know, that really helps in like really supporting each other. And I feel like if you suddenly have like a little group, whatever, and you're all really supporting each other's work, sometimes it just will naturally fall into place.
Mm. And I think your meeting with Nayana IZ is actually a really good example of it, where you were doing your thing, and wasn't it at a Grenfell community thing that you guys met
Yeah.
each other and you just really valued each other's, I guess, input to the situation? You kind of bumped into each other and just vibed and hit it off essentially.
Yeah, exactly. It was so organic. It was literally, we were at a Grenfell fundraiser and we just bumped into each other. And I was like, I like you. And she was like, I like you. And we were like, let's work together. And the rest is history.
I love that. Why is it important to you to work with independent labels as well? Like, how do you like to navigate working with marathon artists?
Yeah, I mean, Marathon are great because I just have like a really cool team who, um, you know, give me like a lot of creative control. And I think that that's the number one thing, really, is it's ownership, having ownership over yourself as an artist and ownership over yourself creatively. Our working relationship feels, yeah, very, very balanced, and we're kind of working in harmony. And you know, we both meet each other in the middle. I feel like, you know, I put in half the work, they put in half the work, and we come together, we make a full picture. So yeah, obviously, again, if you wanna, if you like putting in half of the work and, you know, doing a lot, then it is a really good situation because you also get creative ownership. So yeah, that for me is like one of the biggest things that's like really nice. But yeah, also working with people where your creativity and, you know, when we started working together, they came to me because they really liked what I was and what I had already built, rather than trying to shape the narrative into something that wasn't quite me. So I already knew, it's like, okay, you know what you're getting, I know what I want to do, let's do this. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's definitely like a sharing of values there.
Have you had people try and shape you before into something that they think you should be?
I would say yes, but only not necessarily in the music industry, but I would say more in a societal way. I think like in society, it's very rare for anyone to grow up and not have, oh well, this is how you should act, or this you should, oh, you're this gender, so you should act this way, or you're this color, so you should make this kind of music. And do you know what I mean? I've always just kind of been on my own frequency with it.
Keep going, Lava. We love it. We love to see it. Finally, what does being an independent artist mean to you? And do you have any advice for other independent artists who are just starting out?
Yeah, I would say going back to a lot of things that I spoke about before, like having a lot of creative ownership, and being an independent artist really works when you have quite a clear vision of what you want and where you're going. If you don't necessarily have that, but you still want to make music, sometimes it does help to have like more support, or more of like a machine backing. But if you're like, this is exactly what I want, this is how I want to do it, I just need someone to come meet me halfway, then like, yeah, it does really help. So I would always recommend being independent to people who may be all-round artists as well, artists who like to work really heavily on the visual, artists who like may understand like the aesthetic and understand the steps to achieving it. And yeah, I've always gotten quite like nerdy with things. Whenever I've been on like camera sets or film sets, I've always kind of like gone around and asked, okay, so how does that work and how does that work, because I want to know how to do it myself. And it's the same when I'm in a studio working with an engineer, because then you become very self-sufficient. So yeah.
For sure. Well, Love LaRue, thank you so much for joining me. And of course, best of luck with the nominations. I'm rooting for you. You know I am. Of course, everyone else at home, keep an eye on the AIM Awards socials and app for more news, features, exclusive announcements, and make sure to watch the show on the 25th.
Woo! Thank you for having me.